Erik the Victorious about 945 to 995 was a Swedish monarch as of around 970. Since he is the first Swedish king in a consecutive regnal succession, who is attested in sources independent of each other, Sweden's list of rulers usually begins with him. The Battle of Fyrisvellir was a battle for the throne of Sweden which was fought in the 980s on the plain called Fyrisvellir, where modern Uppsala is situated, between King Erik the Victorious and his nephew Styrbjörn the Strong. It is mentioned in a number of medieval sources. German ecclesiastic chronicler Adam of Bremen around 1075 provides by far the oldest narrative about King Erik. Adam characterizes Erik as a heathen and initially very hostile to the Christian religion. Nevertheless, the number of missionaries were at work during his reign, foreigners as well as some belonging to recently converted Nordic families. Scots king born in the 960s. Died about 1022, Swedish king from the 990s, son of Erik Sigurdsson. Scots is usually mentioned as the first king who can't certainly be said to have ruled over both Svealand and Gotland. Scots was the first king of both Gotland and Svealand, and the first to try to introduce a Swedish currency. Included in the Westergothic law from around 1240 is the first brief Swedish chronicle, which begins with Scots. It relates that Olaf was baptized in Huseby in Västergötland by the missionary Sigfrid, and made generous donations on spot. At Huseby Parish Church, there is a sign commemorating his baptism. Nearby is a well thought to be the same sacred spring where Olaf was baptized. Snorri names Emund, Homeford as the children of King Olaf by his concubine Bedla, specifying that Emund was sent to Vinland to be fostered by his mother's relations where he for a long time neglected his Christianity. He succeeded in 1052 as the Old King of Sweden. Steadkill Old Norse, Steinkil was a king of Sweden who ruled 1060 until 1066. He succeeded Emund the Old and became the first king from the house of Steadkill. He was not from Uppsala, but probably from Västergötland and related to the previous dynasty by marriage to Emund's daughter. He supported the Christianization of Sweden and cooperated with bishops from the Archbishopric of Hamburg-Bremen. Steinkil had a son called Ingi, who became king of Sweden after Håkon. Ingi was king of Sweden for a long time, and was popular and a good Christian. He tried to put an end to heathen sacrifices in Sweden and commanded all the people to accept Christianity, yet the Swedes held to their ancient faith. Christianity was then young in Sweden. There were then many men who went about with witchcraft, and thought by that to become wise and knowing of many things which had not yet come to pass. King Ingi was a thorough Christian man, and all wizards were loathsome to him. He took great pains to root out those evil ways which had long gone hand in hand with heathendom. Most of Scandinavia had been converted to Christianity by 1095 when Pope Urban II issued a plea for Christian armies from an ascendant Western Europe to aid Byzantine Emperor Alexius I in fending off the Seljuk Turks and recapture the Holy Land from Muslim rule. The Pope decreed that those who joined in the expedition would receive remission of all penances due for their sins. Full of religious fervor, the converted Vikings were among the upwards of 100,000 Christians who answered the papal call and joined in the First Crusade. Sverker I or Sverker the Elder, murdered December 25, 1156, was king of Sweden from about 1130 till his death. Erik IX of Sweden, king of Sweden from 1150. Erik did much to aid Christianity in his realm and was responsible for codifying the laws of his kingdom, which became known as King Erik's Law, also the Code of Uppland. The 12th king was Erik. He was rashly killed in an unhappy moment. He always gave a good example while he lived, and God rewarded him well. Now his soul is at rest with God and his angels, and his bones rest in Uppsala. And he has, with God's help, made and manifested many precious miracles. Saint Erik is portrayed in art as a young king being murdered during Mass with the Bishop Henry of Uppsala. In Uppsala Cathedral there is a series of late medieval paintings depicting Erik and Henry of Uppsala. Common features of Swedish heraldry are similar to those of other Nordic countries and Germany, placing it in the German-Nordic heraldic tradition, distinguished from Vallo-British heraldry and other heraldic traditions by several key elements of heraldic style. One of these is the use of multiple helmets and crests, which cannot be displayed separately from the main shield. These helmets and crests are considered to be as important as the shield, each denoting the fief over which the bearer holds the right. The earliest known achievements of arms in Sweden are those of two brothers, Sigtryg and Lars Bengtsson, from 1219. The earliest example of Swedish civic heraldry is the city arms of Kalmar, which originated as a city seal in 1247. The seal, Swedish sigil, used extensively in the Middle Ages, was instrumental in spreading heraldry to churches, local governments, and other institutions, and was the forerunner of the coat of arms in medieval Sweden. The medieval crest of Sweden, shown above in a mural of King Birger, who reigned from 1290 to 1318 at a time of great rivalry with Norway before the Kalmar Union. The crest is, like Denmark's, based on two horns, each with 5 flags attached to the outside in a fan arrangement. The flags are blue with a gold lion to represent the House of Bjelbo, to which Birger belonged. The Bjelbo lion, set against wavy white stripes, still forms the second and third quarterings of the Swedish royal arms. The coat of arms with the 3 crowns was first used by Albrecht of Mecklenburg in 1364 when he became king of Sweden after having banished the native Folkung dynasty from the throne. It should be noted that the 3 crowns as introduced by King Albrecht became the coat of arms of the Kingdom of Sweden without at the same time being that of the reigning family. The House of Mecklenburg bore a crowned bull's head. The coat of arms, originally, was not that of the realm but of the king. After many years over the centuries of changing dynasties and unions within Scandinavia, the Swedish royal coat of arms has settled into a slightly Scandinavian pattern, one it at least shares with Denmark. Namely, the quarterly shield of arms specific to the country, separated by a cross which extends throughout and a dynastic inescutcheon. This pattern was developed by King Carl VIII in the 15th century. The greater coat of arms represents Sweden's monarch, and is also utilized on special occasions by the government and by the Swedish parliament. From the days of the early reign of Gustav Vasa in 1523, it has been customary in Sweden to display the arms of the ruling dynasty as an inescutcheon in the center of the greater coat of arms. Gustav II Adolf (1594–1632) was the son of King Karl IX and Christina of Holstein-Gottorp. His grandfather was Gustav I, or Gustav Vasa as he is often called today, the first of the Vasa dynasty. Gustav Adolf and his wife Maria Eleonora of Brandenburg were the parents of Queen Christina, the last of the Vasa dynasty to sit on the Swedish throne. Gustav Adolf has become, in Western eyes as well as in Swedish popular historiography, synonymous with the apogee of Swedish power and with 17th century Scandinavia in general. The crown of Erik XIV, made in Stockholm in 1561 by Flemish goldsmith Cornelius Verwelden, is typical of the Renaissance style of jewelry of his time. Originally his crown bore 4 pairs of the letter E and R, the initials of the Latin form of his name, Viracus Rex, in green enamel, each pair being on either side of the central stones on the front, sides and back of the circlet. Erik also had a scepter, an orb and a key made for his coronation. This key is an item found only in the Swedish regalia, although the pair of gold and silver keys also were formerly presented to a new pope at his coronation. His scepter was made by Hans Haderich in 1561 and is of gold, enamel and set with diamonds, rubies and sapphires and still used as the monarch's scepter. It originally was surmounted by a large round sapphire at the top enclosed by 2 intersecting rows of pearls. The House of Heraldic, which has ruled Sweden since 1818, used the crown of Erik XIV for coronations at least until 1907, which was the last time anyone wore any of the Swedish crown jewels at all. The crown, along with Queen Christina's crown and the other royal regalia, is now permanently on display in the vaults of the royal treasury, underneath the royal palace in Stockholm. As her coronation and state crown, Christina of Sweden used the crown that her mother Maria Eleonora of Brandenburg had used as the queen consort. It was made in Stockholm in 1620 and had arches in gold with black enameling and set with rubies and diamonds, with a small blue enamel orb and cross, added a cap of purple satin, embroidered in gold, to the inside of the crown. The circlet of the crown has 8 large rubies and diamonds. Louise Ulrika's crown was made in 1751 in Stockholm by Andreas Elmblad. The crown was commissioned for the Queen's coronation because the King was to wear Maria Eleonora's crown. It had been designed by Jean Erik Ren. Each Swedish prince and princess had their own crown made based on a standardized template. The effect of all these nearly identical and yet subtly different crowns is rather remarkable. The orb was made for King Charles IX 1550 to 1611, and crystal-studded gold crown was made for Charles' second wife, Christina the Elder. While some funeral regalia are kept in the cathedrals of Strängnäs, Uppsala and Västerås, Sweden's crown jewels are in vaults under the royal castle in Stockholm.